So I'm in a cemetery because I may as well be in the land of the living dead the way things are at the moment. But I think there's one thing that's really important that people need to understand, which I'm going to try and explain it as best I can do it, but people don't seem to grasp this because people think the masks are just like, oh geez, it's going to be something that passes by, it's just only for 20 minutes, I wear it on the bus, I wear it in the shop, it's no big deal. But what we've got here is all your freedoms are kind of predicated on the rights of the individual, and that's really vital because it's one of the bulwarks, apart from your own personal capacity for violence, it's one of the bulwarks against mob rule. It's one of the sort of foundations of liberty, right? Is the rights of the individual are king, right? Because we all experience life as individuals. So when the rights of the individuals start to become subsumed or like submersed by the collective, by the mob, that's when you're in trouble because you haven't recourse to protect yourself by law, right? So the masks are the first step towards doing that. They're taking away your right to your autonomy over your body. It's dangerous. Now let me clarify my thoughts there. So this is the first step. The masks aren't the cause of it. It's a step on a trajectory of where they start to tell people, just individual people, that they don't, who've not committed any crime, who are not even active, they're just existing in the world, that they need to have regulations imposed upon them just in order to breathe, just in order to be anywhere. And they've extended it to like in order to have access to food or in access to freedom of movement, maybe on public transport. And then it's a very small step to fill in the gap. So at the moment, say if you go into town, you might ride the bus or the subway, and then you get into town and you think, okay, I'm going to buy some food. So there's a small gap between getting off your transport and getting into the shop. So if they close that gap, like which they have done in some European countries, where they have the masks are mandated everywhere, regardless of how hot it is or what the weather's like, you've got to wear a mask outside. So the individual is having their right to just breathe in the open air regulated against. So what they're telling us there is that the rights of the herd are more important than the rights of the individual, because they are considering each individual to be some kind of bio-threat, to be some kind of hazard to the herd, which is preposterous in itself because you're not, we're not getting taught anything about immune systems and any sort of preventative measures you can take to take care of your own health. And we've all heard the argument, surely by now, that if I am as an individual responsible for someone else's health, where does that stop? Can I wake them up at 6 a.m. to make them go for a jog or for a walk or a cycle ride? Or can I pull the cigarette out of their mouth, or can I pull the alcohol out of their, also out of their mouths or out of their cupboards or whatever, out of their shopping trolleys? Where the individual doesn't have a responsibility to other people's health. The individual has a responsibility for their own health, and the individual has its own rights. The mob does not have rights that are superior or like that surpass the rights of the individual. It's a ridiculous notion, and where it leads to, of course, is that if people consider each other to be a threat, the individual to be a threat to the mob, to the herd, where it leads to is the fact that or we start to agree with this idea that the individual has to be regulated in order just to breathe outside. Where it goes is that the state has control of your body, and then the state starts to make other regulations because the principle has been set that we can dress your face. These masses of collective of warmongers and liars and alleged pedophiles are going to say that you've got to dress your face, you've got to cover your face because you're scaring the herd. Once they've established that principle that they can actually mandate something like that, they can then mandate other things and say, we've got control of your body, we can mandate tests. And this has been done. This is being done now in English-speaking countries, in the Anglosphere. So like we're talking about Melbourne, in Victoria, in Australia, they're mandating tests so that people, in order to be able to leave the tower block that was locked down in a local lockdown, the test is being mandated. So someone has to buy their freedom with an intrusive, I'm guessing it's the PCR test or antibody test. Either way, they're having to have a mandated test to get out of their home and to partake in society. And the next step after that, we all know, is going to be mandated medicine from a state that Personally, I don't trust the government. I've seen what the government does with vaccinations. We've got the Gulf War syndrome. I've seen what the government does with other things like its wars and stuff. I don't trust the government to look after me. I don't think the government cares about old people. I don't think it cares about your health. So I don't think I really want to be having something that injected into me that's been rushed through in a short space of time, that's going out to 7 billion people without any checks and balances. And vaccines don't get the same checks and balances anyway as the drug companies done. And I don't trust Bill Gates, who's behind it, some of these things. And he's not the only person, but he's like the figurehead of this kind of movement to control people through medicine. This is a medical martial law, and if you're complying with the mask, you're wearing the symbol and the of submission. You're collaborating with your own enemy, not my enemy. It's going to be your enemy too. You just don't know it yet. You're my ally wearing a mask telling me why we're not masked. You're my ally and I'm yours. You don't recognize me yet, but you will, and hopefully you'll do it sooner rather than later, because these things are going in the wrong direction and people need to wake up, and they need to wake up fast, because the way I'm looking at you you're like these people. You're no more alive than that when you've got the mask. And that's the way they refer to you. The people at the top, they think of you as dead people because you can't think of yourself. And this is what it's like walking through supermarkets. I may as well be in one now. I ain't messing. This is how it is.